Right, I think that's a good start. Welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today on our webinar about Nodegraph. My name's Philip Doyne. I'm the Technical Director of QlickiT, and I suspect that most of you are here because you've had our emails and you know us. So what are we doing today? I wonder if in your Qlik installation you've ever had the situation, something's changed in my database, my source data. Which applications does it actually affect? Where is it going to do? What do I need to look at and check? How do I check it all through? Or have you ever had people coming to you saying, how is that field calculated? Where does that come from? What's the calculation? How do I understand what that is? Or have you ever had the internal auditors come around and say, where's all your documentation? Or perhaps you've got one person who's been doing all the work and John has finally left and he was the only person who knew what was actually happening. All these questions are answered by this amazing product that we discovered the end of last year, and we wanted to present it to you. I'm absolutely delighted to have Johan from Nodegraph here to present it from you. He's talking to you from Sweden. So we're truly international. Johan, you're most welcome. And he has produced this product, he and his team have produced this product which does actually answer all of those questions. So I don't want to take up any more of his time. Johan, your data starts here and your time starts here. Over to you.
Thanks, Philip, and good afternoon all. So we're here to talk about Nodegraph today, and Philip gave you an introduction to what it is. And Nodegraph is a tool that actually will visualize your complete Qlik view and Qlik Sense solution from the data source all the way to the end-use application. I hear that we have some people attending, but we are arriving. We continue. And that is Nodegraph. So it visualizes your complete solution. And then you wonder, how does that happen? And it shows the complete truth, no manual work needed. So you as a developer or you as owner of the product don't have to do anything. You just point out your Qlik solution and you say where it is, or your Sense server where the sensor is located, and then it actually extracts the data and going to present you that data to you. So to make it very visible where all your metadata is hidden in your system and all business logic that has been applied. For technical choices here, we have pretty much, you can compare it to Qlik Sense. It's the same technology choices that has been made for Qlik Sense. So we're totally web-based application. I'm going to give you a short presentation in PowerPoint first, and after that I'm going to go through and make a presentation of the product. But first I would like to give you some questions and give you, so to say, the scope for what we can actually solve with Nodegraph. And okay, so Nodegraph are focusing on 4 main areas. The first one, visualize your Qlik environment. We have a tool called Dependency Explorer, and that Dependency Explorer will in a visual way present all logic, all business logic that has been applied from all your data sources to all your end-use applications, and as well all the users that are actually using those applications. So you can see which users are.
Just to interrupt, I don't know about the others. I'm only still seeing the your data starts here slide. Does that apply to others?
Sorry.
Well done.
Just
sorry about that. Sorry. So first I'm going to go back to my previous slide. So this was that Nodegraph shows you the truth of your complete solution, no manual work needed, and the technical choices. And then we're going to go to this screen where I just was. So we have 4 main focus areas, and it will visualize all your business logic, all your relationship between different QVDs, data sources, Excel spreadsheets, text files, and end-user applications, and all the way to end users. So you can see that. The second thing is automated system documentation. With just a single click, you can create system documentation, a full and complete system documentation of your QlikView and QlikSense solution, meaning you never have to write a system documentation again. And it's always up to date. So if you get a question, is it up to date? You say, yes, of course it is. And then you just press print, and you can have it printed to PDF, or just print it on the printer and give it away. We can also include comments, so you can communicate and make yourself remind things along the way in that documentation. So we can include comments in that documentation. The third one is governance first. We know that if you have been working with QlikView or QlikSense for a while, it is possible to make it quite complicated, and it requires a structure. I know QlickiT has a structure, but it also requires that all developers actually use that and follow that those development guidelines. And with Nodegraph, you can actually see if you have followed those guidelines all the way and in all applications. And if you find places where you have not followed your guidelines, then it's easily to actually make the changes, identify where you need to make changes, make the change, and then see that the result was as you expected it. The fourth one is Field Explorer, and that's very powerful. If you have worked with Qlik, you know that you can have a field in an end-user application, let's say sales, and then you don't really know where it's coming from. Is it that database? Is it that table? Have we combined several fields, or is it just one field? The Field Explorer will tell you all business logic that has been applied from one single field in the end-user application all the way back to your data sources. So these are the four main areas that Nodegraph are focusing on. And I'm going to reference back to them later on in the demo as well. We see two different types of users using Nodegraph. It's business users and it's IT users. As a business user, you may have questions. Some of them are the ones Philip said previously when he introduced it. It can also be these. Let's say you have the sales application, and then you want to know which sources do we use for this application. Is it related? Have I used the same source in another application, or have we used a different source but to present the same type of data? As I mentioned before here about the Field Explorer and the field sales, have we actually taken the field gross sales from a table called invoice, or have we used the field price times quantity instead? Have we included freight charges? Are invoice charges included? Have we excluded some departments? We don't really know in the end-user application in QlikView, but Nodegraph can tell you that. We also find that when we talk to business user and can actually visualize the Qlik solution in a visual way, the communication between the developers and the business user are much better when we can actually talk about the reasons why we say this is harder to make, or this is impossible, or this would not be a good solution, but we recommend you this solution instead. Nodegraph can actually help you understand why you have a developer saying this or that. If you're an IT user or a developer instead, you may have come to this problem. You're going to change in a QVD. You're going to change a QVD file, and you think, or you're almost certain that there are two end-user applications that will be affected. But then you start to think, oh, perhaps my colleague actually used that QVD, or is that end-user application still in use? Perhaps, I'm not really sure. Nodegraph will give you 100% answer to that question. We can also see if we're using the correct data sources. Have we, for example, used any test databases or old databases in our production environment? Are we using any Excel files that we are not expecting? have we reloaded all files? You know, if we forget to reload a QVD file, it doesn't really, perhaps you don't see it in the end-use application, but it could turn out that you don't have all data that is up to date. And that's hidden, so to say, in your structure further down. Nodegraph can tell you that. We can also see where specific files are used, Excel files, QVD, or database tables. We can also see if I want to update in a database table, we can see which QVDs and which QVDs and sense applications that are affected if we make that change. We can also see some metadata about file size, number of records, number of rows, latest reload date, and so on. So we're going to show you that too. These are the different questions, and if you are familiar to QlikView and QlikSense, these are questions that you probably are aware of, and perhaps not on a daily basis, but on a regular basis, you are aware of that these questions arise in a Qlik environment, because Qlik as a product doesn't offer you, you can't find the answers easily in a Qlik environment. Just give you a brief technical how Nodegraph looks like. What we need is that the log files need to be turned on. So the only thing you need to do is you need to make sure that your log files in QlikView are turned on. And then you point out your QlikView structure, and then you let Nodegraph work. We put all that metadata into this black box. We parse the data. We build our own data model of how your QlikView solution looks like. And then we present the data in Nodegraph Dependency Explorer, which is where we show the visualization of your Qlik solution, or the Field Explorer, where we can see all your business logic that has been applied to a single field. We can also make a sense mashup. So we put it in actually sense, since it's JSON data, and we got the APIs, REST APIs that you can query. You can also use this data with a third-party product. There is a documented API that we can use to extract the information if you want to present it somewhere else, use it for some other things. For example, it could be used in Informatica if you want to have, so to say, lineage of your Qlik solution, which could be sent to another tool like that. So that was the technical part. Now I'm planning to demo the product. I'm just going to see if we, yeah. So we don't have any questions what I can see so far. So now we'll make the demo. And as I said, the product is a web-based tool, completely web-based. So when you start Nodegraph, or when you want to start Nodegraph, just open a web browser, and the server is installed on or in your Qlik environment, so either on your QlikView server or QlikView publisher or any other server within that environment. It needs to have access to log files and the file structure. Except for that, we don't have any requirements. What we see here is basically three modules. The first one, Dependency Explorer, we're going to visualize QlikView and QlikSense solutions. The Field Explorer, and then we got some reports. So you can have standard reports of questions that arise in a QlikView solution. For example, which QVDs are not used in my end-use applications that I can just remove? Which QVDs are not reloaded on a regular basis, and questions like that. The first time you start Nodegraph, you go in up here and press Settings. What you do then is you're going to define your different categories and where your QlikView solution is located on your folder structure. Or you're going to point out your Sense server where we can find the log files on your Sense server. That's the only thing you need to do, and then we press Run, and then we can schedule so it's so to say reloaded with new data on a regular basis. If I'm going to select Dependency Explorer here now, this is what it's going to look like. In my example here, I have 4, what we call it, layers or categories. The first one is my data source in this column. So you see I've got Excel files and I got data sources. In my second one, it's an extract layer, meaning I'm just taking a complete copy of the database files and I store it into QVDs because QVDs are so much faster to work with. So that's my extract layer. In my third layer, the transform layer, that is where I apply my business logic. So here I do whatever type of business logic I need to apply. And the fourth column, that is my end user applications. So these are the applications that are available to end users. And then you see links. All links here mean that the boxes have logical relationships between them. And data is carried on. So if I want to answer my first question here, that we say, which data sources do we use for sales? If I select sales and press hide unrelated, so I'm going to remove everything else. In this example, it's quite few applications. I mean, some of you have lots of applications and lots of QVDs. So then you select what you want to have. We can search for single QVDs or data sources. But now I'm going to say hide unrelated nodes. This shows me all QVDs and data sources related to sales application. The orange line means that it's the first relation. The green line means that it goes, the data is retrieved through another, so to say, layer. A few different things could be said here. One, okay, I see that I use this Excel file, this production database from SQL Server, and this test database. These QVDs in extract layer and this one in transform. Now in Nodegraph, you can actually go down and we can see on a table level and I can see on a field level. So if I want to see a specific field, this field order ID in sales table, in sales application, I select, right-click, and say hide unrelated nodes. This is the way that field is created. Here is my database. So I see this is my database, this is my table, and this is my SQL query that is used to extract those data over there, order ID it was, and then it goes that way. And that is my end user field that is used in my end user application. I'm going to reset, so I press up here. I can also say, okay, we are using this in my production database. We have this table called products. I want to select that because I'm interested to know if I'm going to make a change in this product table, which end user applications and which QVDs are affected. So I say hide unrelated nodes. And I see I got two different queries going through that QVD, which includes all my field. And then it's these two applications that I used over here. So you see this is way. And then this time I'm only going to change and update the product name. So I say hide unrelated nodes. So this is a way. If I'm going to change product name in this table, I know this is just a copy of that table. Then I know this field, this QD will be affected, and these two fields in this two applications. Those are the only ones that will be affected by that change. And we have a similar question that we can answer. Let's say if I'm going to update this invoice QVD, right-click, hide unrelated nodes. If I'm going to make change in that, I need to make sure and test these two applications. Otherwise, I may end up in problem. This was the first one. Visualize your Qlik solution. It can also be used, for example, if you got Excel files and you're not really sure where they are used. You can just select one and you see where it's used. That was the first one. We can also make comments. You see here, it's a gray info sign. So I right-click, press Node Comment. So here I've added a comment used by sales manager, sales statistics, blah, blah, blah. I update that. So this is a way I can communicate with my colleagues, with end users, or with myself. If I forgot, I type in data, and then when I ask myself the same question 3 months later, I can just see, oh yeah, that was why we did that. If I'm going to create the system documentation now, I'm going to select the end user application up here, right-click, and say generate documentation. This documentation, the first version is on screen, so you can search for it. You can also, at the bottom, print. The documentation includes all data source connections, all files that are related, It gives you all lineage for all fields in the end-user applications. And it gives you the comments that I talked about before, and also tables and fields. And this can, of course, be printed and searched in the web browser. So that was the system documentation. The third one I talked about was governance first. Imagine if everyone always followed guidelines. That's perhaps for some companies it works, but for most companies, you know, you forget sometimes, you have new colleagues, you have old colleagues that get that needs to make a quick fix and then leave it. And that's why it's good to have a tool that actually can visualize. Or if you, so to say, if, as Philip said, John, he has made all the work, developed all solutions, and then he leaves. And then it gets in your need to actually sort out the mess. For example, as governance first, we can see a few different things here. One is we are using the test database as a source. If I select that, you see it goes through customers new and to end-user application. So we are retrieving data from table customers in the test database, and we are using that in our production environment. Not good. But what I also see is that we got this customer's QVD from the production database that has no outcoming links, meaning this QVD is not in use. Probably we forgot to make a change between those two. One should be removed, either renamed or moved or updated, but we need to make an action on that. Another thing we can see is this region's QVD. Do you see? There's no incoming link, meaning it's not reloaded, never updated. So if you change or update your region's grouping, it won't have any effect in the end-user applications because it's never reloaded. No data is coming in here. No lines are coming in. We can also say that we defined where our QlikView structure were, and they are over here. But then we have a box here, say file source without rules. So apparently we are using files that are outside our, so to say, predefined structure where we expect files to be used. In this case, we see it's forecast XLS. We can see the complete path. We can see when it was last modified, and we can see which end-use applications are actually using that file. So this is a way you can use either to improve your quality and to know how your structure is and that you follow your guidelines. It can also be used for when you're migrating between different versions, or to make sure that all files are, for example, on the backup schedule. We have one more thing that I would like to show you about governance first. If I right-click here, we say heat map. By doing this, we can actually grade the different nodes in different colors based on these different criteria. So we can say by users, by file size, or last modified. Bottom right, you got a legend. So 0 days and 303 days. The darker green it is, the older it is and has not been reloaded. This is my worst example in this demo. So you see regions QVD last modified in May. Wow, that's old. It's almost a year old. And then you wonder, okay, so which QVD should I use to actually reload this one? And you see it says process extract QVD. So if I'm going to reload extract.qvd, this QVD will be uploaded or reloaded again. So we'll have fresh data. And that works for all QVDs. Right-click and you see the process of the, so to say, of the process that actually creating that QVD. That was all I'm going to say about the governance so far. We could actually also include this user level. So if I say all my users, and if I select a single user, I see the applications that user use. I can also select application, and I see the users using that application. This is, right now the setting is in my example for last 30 days. You can update it to 360 days if you want to know which application you can remove, or it could be 5 days or 2 days if you want to see, so to say, how frequent it's used. That was user nodes. Good. that was all I was planning to present about the Dependency Explorer. So now I'm going to show you the Field Explorer. In the Field Explorer, we can see all business logic that has been applied to a single field. The first thing I need to do is I need to select that field in application and in a table. So I'm going to select my sales.qvv application. I'm going to select my table sales, and then I'm going to select order ID. Then I'm see here, from top to bottom, this was my right-hand side before in Dependency Explorer. So this is the end-use application, and then all the way down to a data source. So first one we have, in the sales table, it says load order ID from this QVD. That QVD in turn is created by load order ID from invoice QVD. And that QVD is created by doing select star from orders. Down here we have a join that joins onto that sales, and you see how it's created. So this way you can see, so to say, everything that has happened. Another way of actually using this Field Explorer is if I go back into Dependency Explorer again. Now I'm going to select the field over here. So I have my ship date. I'm going to make, we're going to do hide unrelated. And I'm going to expand my categories like that. So now you see this field, ship date, and I have a comment on it. Business logic was changed on 1st of 1st, 2016. We see the different fields that are used. You can see we have the same name over here. Here we have a rename, and it's all coming from this table with two different SQL queries. I want to know what we actually have made or done in this, so to say, what kind of scripting or business logic we have done. And then I press right-click and I say Explore Field. And now I get into Field Explorer with everything predefined. Some questions we get is if we support supply map. Of course, we do that. Field Explorer supports supply map. But here you can see all logic, business logic that has been applied. And basically, in our end-use application, we do a if statement. What happens then is that all field names that are used in that statement are traversed all the way down to the lowest level, which is the data file or any other type of data source that you may use. So here you can see everything that has happened with that single field sales, or ship date. And that you can follow here. And this is like a QlikView syntax in the scripting. Good. That was everything I was planning to present here. I'm not sure if we should leave it open for questions or if we should take that afterwards.
Thank you very much, Johan. That was fascinating. I got very excited about this product when I first saw it, and those of you who have heard me banging on about the QlickiT methodology and our universal data architecture will probably know why. That's just a little interlude. I think we do have time to take some questions. It's only 2:30. If you want to fire some questions up on the chat, that would be great, and we will pass them on to Johan. In the meantime, Johan, we have a demonstration or an evaluation version of this available. Would you like just to explain how that works and what the restrictions are?
Sure. Yes, as Philip said, we can make a proof of concept or seeing is believing with Nodegraph. So you get to install Nodegraph at your server. We have a time limit of 2 weeks, and you're only allowed to see it for one end-use application. So in advance, you decide which application you want to see it for, and then you will get full functionality. So let's say for this sales application, right-click, do hide unrelated. So if I included sales QVV in my proof of concept solution, I can see everything, all data related to that sales application. And you can use it and try it and evaluate it for 2 weeks and on your solution to see that it actually works on your data as well. And then you will see lots of things. Even if you know or you think you know your solution, there are always things that we find when we install Nodegraph. And I myself have worked with as a QlikT developer for over 10 years. And it's always fascinating to actually see the solution. And then you realize, 4 years ago, I made that, quick fix. I was supposed to change that, or I did that, or I have colleagues that didn't follow my thoughts, or we haven't the same thoughts, so it should be done. So it's always interesting to actually see how it looks like. So 2 weeks, one application, and try it on your environment.
Brilliant. Yeah, this is definitely something we Johan will remember when we installed our. Let's just see. It's a fantastic product. Can you explain the implementation needs? Does it need its own server environment? Sorry if I missed this earlier. Yes, good question. Is it possible to sort of give us a quick overview of what you need to do in order to get it installed?
Yeah. So basically, Nodegraph has very few requirements. We typically recommend it that you install it on your publisher server or on your QlikView server. It's very low overhead in CPU and RAM, so it's no problem to install it on that same server, the QlikView publisher or QlikView server or Send server. The only thing it actually needs, if you want to install it on a different server, is that it needs to have access to the log files and to the QlikView files, and it needs to have the same path to the QlikView files as the reloading engine has, because we are looking at what the log files say the files should be located, and then we also look at the file structure. And the reason for this is because we can say that, okay, these 5 or 10 QVDs are not used. Remove them, because they shouldn't be in a production environment if they are not used. We can say that you thought you were using these files, but you're actually using those files. So that's why we have that requirement. But as I said, no problem to install it on the QlikView server or QlikView publisher or Send server. Very low maintenance for RAM and CPU compared to what the QlikView and Send are using. So it's a minor load on those servers.
Right, I've 2 more technical questions here. One, what's the product roadmap, and is any additional functionality planned to what is already a very functional product? So there's a compliment and a question all in the same question. Where are you going with this? Not that you need to go very far.
If you have heard Qlik giving presentations, there is a long disclaimer. And I need to add that here now too. I can say in general terms, we are planning to have 2 functional releases a year with new functionality. More advanced or less advanced, but 2 functional releases a year. And then what actually we are, I cannot really say that. What I can say is that there are really exciting things that will be presented at Connections in Orlando in May 2017. So we have a version 2.0. We are right now at 1.2. We have a version 2.0, and we will present those new features in Orlando. So that's the only thing I'm going to say about that.
Wait till May. If you have any brilliant ideas, by all means pass them back to us via support at QlickiT if you don't have one of our email addresses, and we will happily pass them on to Johan, and I'm sure they'll be so brilliant that they'll end up in the product as well. It's definitely, as I see it at the moment, in development mode, and there's a real desire to sensible question. In the demo it lists the QVDs. Can you track what QVD generator created the QVD? We did see it in the pop-up, but not don't seem to be included in the main presentation.
First, I would like to give a follow-up answer to the new functionality. This is a fairly new product. As Philip said, we are very interested to hear how you as end users are using the product and what you think are missing in QlikView and QlikSense, and what we actually can, so to say, help you so that makes your daily business even easier. So, I mean, we are very open for inputs and feedbacks and feature requests. So just send that to our partner QlickiT, and we are happy to have a look at it. About this QVD generator, I'm not really sure if I answer the question or understand the question. We have, if you right-click, if you do mouse over on a QVD, you can see the actual QVD, the QVD generator that created that QVD in process, the text process, and so this QVD was created by extract.qvd. I also have up here, I didn't show you that because it's I don't want to show everything in the demo, but over here we can actually see in my layer of in my extract category, I both have QVDs and QVDs, and I get the information here. In this one I say, okay, QVD model is empty, meaning no data is stored in this QVD, in that QVD. On the other hand, I see this transform QVD. You see data is coming into there. So I haven't dropped this QVD. There are still data residing in that QVD. I also get the information if I get a failed during last reload, or if I haven't turned on my log files, or if for some other reason we couldn't get the lineage. Then I show that here as the information file, and it's also shown down here at the bottom. And here you see my QVD generators. As of today, you do mouse over and you see which QVD generator that actually creates that. It could also be reported which QVDs are created and something like that.
That I think is Gary's question, is can you tell all the QVDs that are produced by extract, if I've interpreted you right?
As of today, the easiest way is actually doing mouse over. Yeah. I would say it's very easy. We got the data, and that's a typical question that we answer out here in reports.
Okay.
So here we have, for example, show me all QVDs with no incoming links, or show me all QVDs that has no outgoing links, meaning it's not used in any application.
Cool.
So it's customer's QVD, and then you are able to go to that. So you can look at it in Dependency Explorer. So, so an answer to that question is it would be very, very easy to add that here. We haven't heard it before, but it's very easy to add that report out here.
Okay. Well, I think that's given us a marvelous introduction to this product. I think myself it's a must-have product. I think every Qlik site should have it, not because I'm particularly promoting Johan for any particular reason. I really think that if you're very small and you've got somebody and only one person who understands it, it's perfect for you. If you're very big, then you've got auditors on your back saying, where did it all happen? And you've got lots of people who don't understand each other and understand what's been going on. So thank you very, very much for your time. Do get in touch with us, email us, give us some feedback. We'd love to hear what you thought about the presentation. Anyway, very much look forward to seeing you. I believe we have recorded this, so it will actually be available on our YouTube channel as well if you want to revisit it. So thank you for another webinar. Thank you for joining us, and have a good day. Bye.